right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. It's the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. You know the drill. We talk about all the hot topics in Pittsburgh sports. We'll get into the Pirates, who open up the season Thursday in Miami, but the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown, again, will be the Steelers as we continue to play Aaron Rodgers drama. Here to talk about it is your panel tonight. We have Jeff Hathhorn, sports director at 93.7 The Fan. In the middle, Ray Fittipaldo from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, joined by Jason Mackey from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Ray, I want to start with you. Aaron Rodgers came into town. I thought his presence meant they're going to get something done. They spoke for 6 hours. They obviously offered him a while ago.
Yeah.
Why was there no deal done?
I think in most cases in free agency, Bob, you don't let the guy get out of the building, but this is Aaron Rodgers, and there's really no predicting what his process is. It seems like this is the end. I don't want to predict it's definitely going to happen this week, but for him to come in here, that shows a lot of interest, and I think it's just a matter of time now. I would be surprised if we don't know in the next 5 days whether he's going to be in Pittsburgh or not.
You know, I know a lot of people will say, just give him a deadline. Say if it's by Wednesday, if you don't sign, you're out. Well, you've come this far with him.
Right.
Why are you going to rush the process now? And to Ray's point, you're not going to change whatever he's thinking, and no one knows what he's thinking. He's going to go into a dark place and come out with a Steeler helmet, or if he's going to come out and not know what he's going to, who knows what his thing is. But the guy played some decent football. They think he's their best option, and now they're putting all the eggs in that basket.
Guys, I don't know what you think. Aaron Rodgers in town, talking to Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, getting here. If the contract is, Ray, everything that we've read about this, it's taken care of. It's not a big deal.
Right.
To me, this is very good news for the Steelers. If you're looking for them to sign Aaron Rodgers, if you're against it, obviously I understand that. But Mike Tomlin selling Aaron Rodgers getting an upfront look at the Steelers, what they're about, to me, this means a deal is, probably days away.
And to Jeff's point, I think over the final 8 or 9 games, he had 18 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions.
Yes. Bad opposition at times, but so what? He did it, right?
But he was playing his best football at the end, and I think that's encouraging for the Steelers.
And guys, what I'd love to know is, like, what are those conversations as far as, all right, what am I going to be able to do with this offense? What is my input? What are we going to change to fit my game?
Right.
Not for me to fit into what you guys did.
Because he's not bringing in his own offensive coordinator, Jason. He has Arthur Smith, who may want to do
the
things
assistant
one way.
offensive coordinator at this point, Paul.
At this point. But, I mean, I think that's a relevant point.
Yeah.
What does he do? And also, how much autonomy does he have at the line of scrimmage?
I mean, he has to have 100% autonomy, right? You don't bring in Aaron Rodgers and expect him to change. At least I wouldn't. I mean, the Steelers have to have a plan forward that includes Aaron Rodgers playing the way he wants to, the way he feels comfortable. That's why you go out and get DK Metcalf. I mean, you have him, you have George Pickens, you need to utilize the pass catchers. You do have more, but I mean, I'm not changing Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going to try to change Aaron Rodgers, and I'm going to give him final editorial control at the line of scrimmage.
The only thing about that is you're not going to have Lazard here. You're not going to have Devontae Adams here. The Steelers aren't going to do what the Jets did last year and, bring his gang from the Packers. So from that aspect, if you're going to give him full control, you better be here in OTAs. You better be here in minicamp. Yep. And you better be engaged during training camp.
How about if he doesn't want to?
Yeah.
How about if that's
I don't care if you're not here for all of it, but for the beginning of the install, make sure you're here for minicamp. Maybe have some sessions where you invite people to wherever it is in the world that you are. Yeah.
But if you're Aaron Rodgers, isn't that okay? I would imagine that if you're Aaron Rodgers and you're told, you get, hey, whatever you say, we're going to do it. We're going to tailor this around you. We just need you here. To me, that's a logical thing. I'll show up.
I think it's also fair to say this. I think Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers will get along well, but Arthur Smith has never had a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. He's had the mobile quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. He's had Justin Fields. He was obviously more comfortable with him than Russell Wilson. So I think it can work because I think they think the game the same, but he's a different type of quarterback than he's ever worked.
I mean, he had Matt Ryan at the end of his career, but there's no young guy, at least right now, unless they were to draft somebody that's going to be at the heels of a veteran like Ryan was with him. And I do think that there are some players that that Rodgers could take advantage of their skills. I'm not thrilled with this option, but if this is what their option's going to be, then
it puts a lot of emphasis, Jason, on their offensive line. They're making shifts here. They're putting Broderick Jones into a different position. They have somebody they've never seen play at the pro level in Troy Fautanu. If things collapse on the offensive line, like we saw from their tackles last year at times, I mean, that's going to lead to problems, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. And the offensive line is going to have to be a heck of a lot better. I like the steps they've taken so far with the running game, Bob. I don't think they're done. Ray, feel free to disagree with me, but I mean, something in the draft, I would imagine they improved the running game that way. They have to have a functional running game to help out Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, there's a lot of onus on the offensive line. I think Broderick Jones personally is going to be a heck of a lot better on the left side than he was on the right. I liked what little we saw of Troy Fautanu, but we know Aaron Rodgers isn't terribly mobile. The one thing I do like about Rodgers, gets the ball out.
Quick.
He's not gonna hang on to it. He's not gonna take a lot of sacks. We know he's a sitting duck back there.
42 years old. Even 5 years ago, he was running around with the Packers. When they were in the playoffs in 20 and 21. He's not that player anymore. So Broderick Jones, you better be good. Troy Fautanu, I got a lot of confidence in him. In August, Jeff, they thought he was the best offensive lineman on their team. I think they expect him to pick up where he left off.
Yeah, and him in space is fascinating. I want to see that at the NFL level, how he can get to the second level. But you don't draft 2 tackles in the first round without giving them an opportunity to play. And Broderick's going to get that chance. You're going to see the same offensive line as last year. You like what you saw in the middle. You hope Mason takes a step forward. And you hope that, having Broderick on that side and having Sayamalo be able to be there for Broderick might help him out.
Well, I know this about Aaron Rodgers. He can still wing it. He throws the ball down the field with a lot of precision when he gets the time. The downside is his athleticism is a little bit not what it should be, and if they get into trouble that way. We'll talk more about the quarterbacks when we come back because Mason Rudolph's also in this discussion. And what happens if he doesn't sign here? Then what? What do the Steelers do, and how will it affect their draft? We'll get into that and more as we continue right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. This quarterback drama continues to play out, and it will until there's a finality to it, because the New York Giants, even though they signed Jameis Winston, when you look at his numbers, it's sort of like backup money, $4 million a year. So they're still in play for certain people. Is it Rodgers? Is it Russell Wilson? Ray, I want to go back to you on this one now. What happens if the Steelers don't get Aaron Rodgers? Just say he, for some reason, because he is unpredictable.
Yeah, listen.
If he goes to New York or whatever.
Russell Wilson appears to be a fallback option, but the longer this goes on, I think that they could just roll with Mason. They could draft a guy in the 3rd or 4th round, and then they have all these comp picks lined up for next year. They could actually try to trade up next year and get their franchise quarterback in the future.
Just don't sign Russell Wilson, please. I mean, that's where I'm at. I think that probably represents a lot of the fan base.
Haven't they sent that message out to
I would think so. I would think so.
Yeah.
But, I mean, maybe they're looking at this like Aaron Rodgers is their #1 option. If they don't get Aaron Rodgers, they're going to go to Russell Wilson. I'm just saying I hope not. I would much rather do what Ray's saying, roll with Mason Rudolph. I might prefer Mason Rudolph over anything at this point and just draft the guy next year, but I think we're in it far enough. Yeah, next year's the year you get your quarterback. I just don't see enough to make a move high in the draft this year. I think they have other needs. Maybe taking somebody in the middle rounds, I'm fine with that, depending on how it falls. But, yeah, if they don't get Rodgers, man, I'd go with Mason, take somebody next year.
But I bought all these $5 discount Russell Wilson T-shirts, and I'm hoping I'm going to make
Jeff. You can still wear them.
But I'm going to make a profit when he comes back. No, I don't actually believe that. Listen, if he doesn't, then you go with Mason. You bring in either a veteran like a Flacco or whoever you want. Here's the thing you don't do. Don't reach for a quarterback.
Right.
Don't feel like in the first round, if you don't have a first-round grade on Jackson Dart or Shador or whomever it is, don't reach. And without a second-round pick, if you don't get a defensive lineman in the first round, man, I don't know if I would reach for one in the 3rd round either, even if Milroe's there. I mean, build that foundation so when you have that quarterback, the young quarterback, then you'll be ready to go like 04.
I'm going to agree with that totally. Supply the fundamentals, get all that stuff out of the way. And Ray, they do not have a #2 pick. And if they don't get one, I'm curious about, George Pickens here. He's available apparently. If someone makes an offer, right? You can get a 2nd-round pick perhaps for him. And if that does not happen, can you see them doing what Cincinnati did and sign 2 wide receivers to really big contracts? Pickens would be sort of 1A to Metcalf.
The only thing I can figure out about the Bengals is they're going to win 49-48 every week because
they're going to have to.
I mean, your best defensive player, Hendrickson, you apparently don't want him. You've said, hey, go seek a trade and see what you could work out. To me, that's not a model that can work. I think for 1 year you could have George Pickens on a rookie contract playing with DK Metcalf. That's not going to work long term. There's a few teams that do it, but the smart thing that they could do is trade him on draft day, hold on to him, trade him at the trade deadline, or next year you get a comp pick for him. Draft a receiver this year to be your future number 2. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I would not lump that much money to George Pickens at this point, Bob. I just have not seen enough. I mean, I've seen the playmaking, I've seen the occasional stardom, but you're spending $33 million a year on DK Metcalf. No. There are other places you're going to have to spend money. We might be spending a lot of money on Aaron Rodgers, probably going to spend a lot of money on TJ Watt. Everything we've seen, he's going to get an extension. I just don't know how it all works, and I don't think it's the best way for them to construct their team.
Bob, if the Steelers had Joe Burrow as a starting quarterback, I might think that. I might think to sign both of them because you have Joe Burrow at quarterback.
Right.
You have an unknown at quarterback. So do you want 2 expensive wide receivers?
But you also got to trade T. Higgins and probably get a
and
big pick.
the other thing is, I know Metcalf has said that, hey, I can play with anybody. I like guys that want the ball. I can't imagine that would work if both those guys, if one of them isn't getting the ball over an extended period of time.
If I can replenish that draft pick by trading George Pickens and then I have some money left over to sign somebody in free agency or execute a trade, I'm doing it. I think that's the better move for them long term. And then you go draft somebody in the second round or even the first. You're confident you can get a defensive lineman in the second round. Whatever it is, you've made your team better for the next 4 years versus this one.
But without that second-round pick, they got defensive line to worry about. They got wide receivers still to worry about. They have cornerback, running back. They have a lot of things. Jeff, I want to ask you about Naji Harris. He went to the Chargers and has some interesting things to say. Most notably, Steelers never had an identity, even though I thought he was, giving the ball 300 times as a run. But he also said there was no leadership in that group. What's your takeaway from what he said?
I thought he was a leader. I thought he was a captain. And listen, some of the things that he said has been good that it's gotten out there, like some of the lackadaisical stuff, guys not showing up to meet, like that stuff. It's good that he said that. And he's been critical of the team. But he's never taken the forefront where he's going to lead it. He's gotten into groups and complained about it. He's mentioned it to coaches. But where has he ever gotten into that room? Not that he doesn't interact with guys, but why didn't he try to make a difference instead of now looking back and say, well, nobody took a leadership role?
I just think it's a symptom of today's athlete. We hear all the time, it's not like that everywhere else. And that may be true, but listen, Steelers fans ought to thank Naji Harris. They would not have made the playoffs last year without him. Why? He's the guy who got Matt Canada fired. That's what happened in Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
In the locker room in Cleveland, he said what he said. The next day, he was fired.
Let's also not be hypocrites. I mean, all 4 of us right here, we stick microphones and phones in athletes' faces and ask them for an honest answer. What did Naji Harris do? He gave an honest answer. I'm not going to ridicule him, Bob. He's allowed to say whatever he wants to. I'm glad he gave an honest answer. Is it the greatest look? No, but he's allowed to say what he wants to say. And you know what? He's not wrong. They should have spent more on offense. They should have had a different identity. It's not just one person. There are a lot of reasons the Steelers didn't have an identity, but he's not wrong. They failed on offense.
Or at least his version of honesty, his version of how it went down. Because,
but
he could have stepped in and been more of a leader because he was appointed.
I agree. I'm not.
As a captain,
I'm saying the offense was not good enough. And Naji Harris said that.
Captain, first-round pick, step up and do it yourself.
All right, we got to take a break on that note. When we come back, Pirate season will be underway on Thursday in Miami. We're going to talk about their roster. We're going to talk about Paul Skeens, what he had to say, and why Henry Davis isn't on the roster, all coming up next. All right, we're back, and we're talking about the Pirates who open up in Miami against the Marlins. Paul Skeens will be on the hill that day. We'll get into the roster in a second. But, Jason, I want to ask you about comments that Paul Skeens had made talking to MLB.com that, hey, it's time. This is ridiculous. This bar is so low, essentially. Should be higher. Well, that's stuff he maybe should have said to the ownership group, the management, or whatever, because they really haven't done all that much to change the perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to criticize Paul Skeens. I mean, he's absolutely right. And it was Alex Stumpf who asked him the question. And he said it's the recent Pirates history, it's crazy that we're talking about 13, 14, 15 or whatever. Paul Skeens has said and done everything possible, everything within his power to get this thing going in the right way. I don't expect him to barge into Bob Nutting's office and start throwing tables and chairs to get him to spend differently. Look, there's a pathway for the Pirates to win here. Look at the Guardians. Look at the Rays. Look at other small market teams. You can win if you make decisions appropriately. I'm not as down on the Pirates as some people. I think Paul Skeens is going to be a big part of fixing this. The same sort of vitriol existed before the 13 season. If they play better fundamentally, they manage their bullpen better, guys perform better down the stretch, these guys can win. That's not absolving their offseason. I understand the frustration. I didn't like it as much as some people did. Well, not a lot of people liked it, but you know what I mean. Like, I didn't love the offseason, but I still think they can win.
To me, they're 100% in on the arms race. You know, they built up this team they think can compete for a playoff spot with these power arms, and now we got this Jared Jones situation, and we don't really know how that's going to play out.
Yeah.
He's your number 2 guy. So to me, you have to supplement it. You have to go out and spend on your offense a little bit in case something like that happens. So to me, they didn't do enough. I'm with you, Bob.
Yeah, I'm with that. They didn't do enough, and I think we all agree with that.
Yeah.
And they knew that. They knew that going into the season. They had arms, just supply it with some offense.
Now that being said, I kind of like Tommy Pham. I won't like interviewing him, I don't think. But
You will, Jeff. I'm telling you, but somebody who did, you will.
But I like the fact that he's going to be in there and stir it up. That he's going to get in some guys' face, that he's going to rip them for no fundamentals. I think the team needs somebody like that. But that being said, they could have gotten someone better. Like, there are options at first base that they could have done, and they went with Spencer Horwitz, who isn't even going to break camp because of a broken wrist. So I wish I could be more optimistic, but because they didn't do enough, I just kind of go into the season like, eh.
I could see them being involved in a lot of one-run games because of their pitching, and then lose because they don't have enough hitting. But Jeff mentioned the first base situation, so Horwitz is not going to be available. It looks like Endy Rodriguez is going to get some time there. He beat out Henry Davis to be the number 2 catcher. Are you surprised by that? And where is Henry Davis now after he started the spring pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, he's in AAA. He's got to hit better. I am absolutely fine with that decision, Bob. I mean, Endy Rodriguez had a better spring. He has position versatility. They needed a left-handed bat to complement Jared Triolo at first base, at least early on until Horwitz gets back. Endy Rodriguez provides that. Henry Davis does not. Endy had a better spring. Good. You should reward the guys who perform better. I don't understand the Kyle Nicholas situation. I think we're going to get into that a little bit. I disagree with it. And I want to make one more point on the offense, guys. I find it fascinating the check they're cashing with the offensive group. Like, they hired a new hitting coach, and they genuinely believe that they can get a lot more out of guys they do have. Triolo, Ke'Bryan Hayes, even Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. I think I'm missing one guy.
Gonzalez, maybe?
Gonzalez. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple guys.
Yeah.
Jack Sawinski.
Yeah.
They think they can get through to the. I don't know if they can or they can't, but that's going to be a huge driver in their season.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly. Let's talk about Kyle Nicholas. So, Ray, he was on the roster last year as a power pitcher. Now, he's wild, and he was wild again this spring. But he has the experience, he has the arm, the velocity, and yet he wasn't. Now, he has minor league options.
Right.
So that's in their favor to send him down. But he'll be back, I would imagine. But aren't you supposed to have, as Jason said in a break we were talking about, the best team moving forward to try to win? Because this is going to be a tight division, I would think, all the way through.
And now what do? Do you go back to Bednar, who last season really struggled and didn't have the greatest start to spring training? Do you try one of the new guys? So, yeah, for me, I think Nicholas should be on the opening day roster. I get it. He has options left. They can bring him back up at any point, but it doesn't send a great message to the other pitchers in that locker room.
I mean, the only thing I'll give the Pirates the benefit of the doubt is maybe there's something they want him to work on to help with his control. Maybe they identified something and they say, hey, we want you to go down and work on a couple of things. If that's the case, they did a poor job of explaining that to the fan base. But maybe that is it, because he has been a little bit wild. And they have some veteran guys that they like to be a part of that bullpen to start. So maybe that's the reason why. At least I hope that's the reason why, because it doesn't make sense otherwise.
Yeah, all due respect to Adam Frazier, right, Jason? He's here, he's a veteran, but he doesn't have all that much left, it looks like. They sent down Davis, they sent down Cook, they sent down Nick York. I thought those guys were going to make an impact. That's why they acquired them, and they're not on this roster either.
No, but I wouldn't take them over Adam Frazier. I understand. Like, I think people get mad about seeing Adam Frazier on the roster because they think the Pirates can and should shoot higher. They're not wrong. But Nick York didn't have a great spring. Billy Cook didn't have a great spring. Henry Davis was good early on and then trailed off. Joshua Palacios didn't have a good enough spring. So I understand the position players they sent down. I don't have any problem with it. The issue with Nicholas, he was good in spring. If I look at their bullpen and their he's one of their 8 best relievers.
He had more innings.
He's not on the team right now
starters.
because he has minor league options. That's what I disagree with. Put your best team on the field. Your best team should be here. And you know what? They did that last year with Jared Jones, and they should get credit for it. And I understand, in hindsight, what they did with Paul Skeens. You want to preserve his innings. He can only go so many, so you want him to finish the season with the club.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with Frazier only because he's the last guy on your roster. He's Connor Joe. He can play a couple of different positions, and he's a veteran who can come in and pinch hit.
We're due for a break. We'll take it. Come back with more right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Don't go away. All right, before we go, Robert Morris, congrats to them. Really good season. They lost, of course, in the first round, but they made it tough on Alabama. Jeff, I want to ask you about the ACC. Only one team left, that's Duke. What does this say about the conference?
Yeah, they're the 5th best Power 4. They're behind the Big East. I mean, seriously, they had 2 coaches quit. They have some turnover. They got to get some focus in that league.
Follow the NIL money, right? All the money's in the Big Ten and the SEC. Those are the 2 conferences that are doing the best.
And it's no different in football either. I mean, look at the ACC in football and how seriously they're taken. They're not. Big Ten, SEC, that's the way college sports is trending. I don't love it, but you can't deny it at this point.
Big Ten had started this March Madness 10-0 until they saw a loss last night. All right, and that was by Wisconsin. I want to tell you about number 1 Cochran Ford. You know they've just added a 5th store. And to celebrate the new number 1 Cochran Ford Youngstown, all their Western Pennsylvania locations have Ford Fab 5 grand opening savings. Pick any one of their 3 different $500 offers when you buy or lease a new Ford. Plus, enjoy 5 times the selection with more than 950 models available for you. Learn more, Cochran.com, or visit number 1 Cochran Ford, Monroeville, Allegheny Valley, or Butler County. All right, before we go, win total for the Pirates over and under 76.5.
76.
Right on the nose.
70 and 92.
Ooh.
Ready for it, Bob? 84.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Over 500. Wild card?
Over 500. In contention. I'm going to say no, they don't get it.
That's going to do it for us. Good night, everyone. We'll see you next Sunday night.